Once upon a time, in a village far away, there lived a woman named Amara. Amara was not like the other women in the village. She was wealthy. Her family had left her a big fortune. She owned vast lands, beautiful homes, and had servants to take care of her every need. But despite all her riches, Amara was lonely. She wanted something that no amount of gold could buy: true love. Amara often thought, if a man loves me, will he love me for who I am or just for my money? This question troubled her day and night. She wanted to find a man who loved her for her heart, not for her wealth. One day, Amara came up with a plan. She decided to disguise herself as a servant. She would leave behind her fine clothes, jewelry, and servants and live like a common woman. This way, she could test who would love her for who she truly was, without being blinded by her wealth. Amara told no one about her plan, not even her closest friends. She packed a small bag with simple clothes and left her grand home in the middle of the night. She traveled to a village far from her own, where no one knew her name or her riches. In this new village, Amara found work as a servant in a rich man's house. The man's name was Jabari. He was kind but strict and did not treat his servants like friends. Amara didn't mind. She wasn't there to make friends. She was there to test true love. For weeks, Amara worked hard. She cleaned the house, washed clothes, and cooked food. The work was tiring, but she was determined. She was waiting for the right man to notice her, to see her for the kind and caring woman she truly was. In Jabari's house, there was another servant named Kofi. Kofi was different from the others. He was gentle, always helping others, and never complained about his work. Amara noticed him right away, but she wasn't sure if Kofi would love her if he knew she was rich. As time passed, Amara and Kofi became friends. They talked in the evenings after their work was done. Kofi would tell her stories of his family and his dreams for the future. Amara listened quietly, her heart slowly beginning to trust him, but she knew she couldn't reveal her true identity just yet. One night, as they sat under the stars, Kofi turned to Amara and said, "You are different from the other servants. You are kind and thoughtful. I feel like I can trust you." Amara smiled but said nothing. Her plan was working, but she knew the hardest part was still to come. Days turned into weeks, and Amara continued her work as a servant in Jabari's house. Each morning she would wake before the sun rose, prepare meals, sweep the floors, and wash the clothes. Her hands, once soft and unblemished, were now rough from the daily chores. Yet she didn't mind. Amara was on a mission, and she would do whatever it took to find out if true love really existed for someone like her, someone hiding their wealth and status. Kofi, the other servant in the house, had become her closest companion. They spent hours together during their breaks, talking about life, dreams, and the struggles they faced. Kofi was always kind to her, even when the work was hard, and his smile was a source of comfort to her weary heart. Amara started to see in Kofi the qualities she had been searching for: kindness, humility, and honesty. One evening, as they sat near the small fire in the courtyard, Kofi began to speak of his past. He told Amara about his life before becoming a servant, how he had once been a carpenter in his own village. He had built furniture with his father and brothers, crafting beautiful wooden pieces for the people of his village. But tragedy struck when his family lost everything in a fire. Forced to leave his home and search for work, Kofi had become a servant to survive. "I dream of the day I can return to my village," Kofi said softly, his eyes gazing at the flames. "I want to build a home again, a place where I can be at peace." Amara listened quietly, her heart aching for him. Here was a man who had lost everything but still held on to hope. She admired his strength and resilience. It made her wonder, if she were to reveal her true identity, would Kofi's feelings for her remain the same, or would he be drawn to her wealth, just like the other men who had tried to court her in the past? As the days went by, Amara found herself caring for Kofi more than she had expected. She had come to this village with a plan to test love, but now her feelings were real. She didn't want to be just a servant in his eyes, yet she feared that revealing the truth too soon would ruin everything. One day, while working in the kitchen, Amara overheard a conversation between two other servants. They were gossiping about a young woman from a distant village who had once been very rich, but had vanished without a trace. Some said she had run away to escape a marriage she didn't want. Others believed she had gone on a journey to find true love, hiding her wealth to see if any man would love her for who she was. Amara's heart raced as she listened to their words. What if someone found out about her? What if the servants in Jabari's house started to suspect that she wasn't who she claimed to be? She knew she had to be careful. Her disguise had to remain intact until she was sure of Kofi's love. That evening, Amara and Kofi sat together again by the fire. The sky was clear, and the stars twinkled above them like diamonds. Amara could feel the weight of her secret pressing down on her, but she wasn't ready to reveal it yet. "Kofi," she began, choosing her words carefully, "do you believe that a person's worth is based on what they have or who they are inside?" Kofi looked at her, his dark eyes thoughtful. "I believe it's what's inside that matters most," he said slowly. "A person can lose everything they own, but if their heart is pure and their intentions are good, they are still rich in spirit." Amara's heart fluttered at his words. Could it be that Kofi truly saw people for who they were, not for what they had? She wanted to believe him, but she needed more time to be sure. As the weeks passed, Amara noticed something else. Jabari, the master of the house, had started paying attention to her. He would ask her to bring him tea, comment on her work, and even compliment her on how neatly she arranged the flowers in the courtyard. Amara was careful not to engage too much with him, but she could tell he was curious about her. This made her nervous. She had come to this village to test love, not to draw the attention of the wealthy. One evening, Jabari invited all the servants to a feast in his large dining hall. It was a rare occasion, as the servants usually ate in the kitchen far from the master's table. Amara knew she had to attend, but she didn't want to be too close to Jabari. She feared he might start asking questions about her past. As she entered the hall, dressed in her simple servant's attire, she noticed Kofi sitting at the far end of the table. He waved her over, saving a seat for her. She smiled and sat beside him, grateful for his friendship. Throughout the evening, Amara could feel Jabari's eyes on her, watching her every move. But she stayed close to Kofi, keeping the conversation light and cheerful. She was starting to realize that while she was testing love, there were others who were testing her patience. As the night went on, she couldn't help but wonder, was Kofi the man she had been searching for all along? Or was this test of love just beginning? The night of the feast stayed with Amara long after it was over. She couldn't shake the feeling that Jabari was getting too close, too curious. More than ever, she needed to know if Kofi's feelings for her were genuine before things went any further. The next day, as the sun rose over the village, Amara made a decision. She could no longer live with the secret she was keeping from Kofi. She had to know if he truly loved her for who she was, not for what she had. And there was only one way to find out, by telling him the truth. That evening, after a long day of work, Amara asked Kofi to meet her by the river outside the village. It was a quiet place where they often went to talk after their chores were done. The water sparkled in the fading sunlight, and the air was cool and calm. Kofi arrived, smiling as usual, but Amara could see the concern in his eyes. "You look worried," he said, as he sat beside her on the grass. "Is everything all right?" Amara took a deep breath. She had practiced this moment in her head many times, but now that it was here, the words felt heavy in her throat. She didn't want to lose Kofi, but she knew she had to be honest. "Kofi," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "I haven't been completely honest with you." Kofi's brow furrowed, but he said nothing, waiting for her to continue. "I'm not who you think I am," Amara said, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'm not a servant. I'm not poor. I'm a wealthy woman from a distant village. I came here in disguise because I wanted to find out if someone could love me for who I really am, not for my money or my status." Kofi stared at her, his expression unreadable. For a moment, Amara feared the worst. Would he turn away from her now that he knew the truth? Would he be angry that she had deceived him all this time? "I'm sorry," she whispered, looking down at her hands. "I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know how else to find true love." There was a long silence. The only sound was the gentle flow of the river beside them. Finally, Kofi spoke, his voice soft but steady. "I see," he said slowly. "You came here to test love, to see if someone would care for you without knowing about your wealth." Amara nodded, still unable to meet his eyes. Yes, she whispered. Kofi was quiet for another moment, and then he sighed. Amara, I don't care about your money. I care about you, the person I've come to know. You could be the richest woman in the world, or you could have nothing at all, and it wouldn't change how I feel about you. Amara looked up, her heart swelling with hope. You mean that? Kofi smiled, his eyes warm and sincere. Of course I do. You've been kind, honest, and strong since the day I met you. I don't need to know anything else. Tears welled in Amara's eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. She had spent so long hiding, so long afraid that no one would ever see her for who she truly was. But Kofi did. He saw her heart, and that was all that mattered. I should have told you sooner, Amara said, wiping her eyes. I was just so scared. I understand, Kofi said gently, but you don't have to be scared anymore. I love you, Amara, not your wealth or your status, just you. Amara's heart soared. She had finally found the love she had been searching for, the kind of love that wasn't based on money or appearances, but on truth and kindness. She reached out and took Kofi's hand, feeling a sense of peace that she hadn't felt in a long time. Thank you, she whispered, for loving me as I am. As the sun set behind the trees, casting a golden glow over the river, Amara knew that her journey was over. She had found the answer she had been searching for. Kofi's love was true, and now she could finally be herself. In the days that followed, Amara revealed her true identity to the rest of the village. Some were surprised, others were not, but in the end it didn't matter. Amara and Kofi's love had been tested, and it had passed with flying colors. They decided to leave Jabari's house and start a new life together. Kofi would return to his village and build a home, just as he had always dreamed, and Amara would be by his side, not as a wealthy woman hiding in disguise, but as the woman he loved. And so, Amara's search for true love came to an end. She had learned that love wasn't something you could buy or force. It was something that grew from honesty, kindness, and trust. And in Kofi, she had found all of that and more. Together, they built a life filled with happiness and peace, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them hand in hand.